Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. Sorry for the state of my office right now. It's VBS week, so you know how it goes. But today in Bible study, it continued. We did not stop for VBS. We soldier on like brave scholars that we are. All right, so Nehemiah 13 is what we talked about today, right? Preach about Nehemiah on Sunday. Nehemiah 13 is an important part of the book because it's where it ties in with the themes of Ezra. So, as you'll hopefully recall, uh, Ezra and Nehemiah are one text. So, they're originally one text. They were separated into two parts for the sake of scroll length, but it's the same text that runs throughout, right? So, it's one story that's just in two books. Same thing with 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, 1st and 2nd Samuel, etc., etc. You can say Luke and Acts, the same thing, right? So, you have here the end of Nehemiah. So Nehemiah served as governor of Judea. Under the Persians. He then is recalled later in the book, right? This happened after what we talked about on Sunday, and then he asks to be sent back, and this is kind of the situation that he finds when he returns. And he had cleaned up a lot of things. He wanted people to follow the law. He leaves, and now he comes back. So he returns to find that all of the reforms that he's put in place, not all of them, but many of them have been neglected. Many of the things that people had worked for have been neglected. And you're going to see here kind of a threefold rejection or turn away from God that the people of Israel have. So you read this, right? And you're going to see, firstly, there's problems at the temple. People aren't donating. They're not tithing what they should be. You have foreigners living in the temple, people who are actually hostile to Nehemiah and hostile to Jerusalem. You have people being intermarried, right? So you have problems in the temple. And then you also have problems on the Sabbath. People are working on the Sabbath and selling on the Sabbath. And then finally, you have people selling on the Sabbath next to the walls. Now, if you've read Ezra and Nehemiah, you might pick up on the irony of all of that, right? Because in these books, you have three men who come from Babylon to restore Israel, and they each focus on different things. Zerubbabel comes to focus on the temple, Ezra comes to focus on the return of the law, and finally Nehemiah comes to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And if you see those three things there I just said, and then look at our text, you're going to see that those three things aren't completely fulfilled and also lead to problems or issues or are rejected. So Zerubbabel comes to build the temple. Well, people aren't giving to the temple. Plus, the priests who staff the temple also are not abiding by the law. Then you have Ezra who comes to bring the law. Okay, well, what's one of the 10 commandments? Don't work on the Sabbath. What are people doing? They're working on the Sabbath. All right, okay, Nehemiah tries to fix that. What's the next thing that happens? People begin selling on the walls outside of the city. So even the walls that Nehemiah built end up being used by the people in order to violate the Sabbath and their covenant with God. And this is where you see the disappointment of Nehemiah and Ezra come in, right? I talked about there's always this hope that comes with these books about a final restoration, right? The messianic restoration, it's coming, it'll be here. And you kind of get a glimpse of it in little bits, right? People begin to care about what God has to say, to live out in their heart, and then it falls, right? Something happens. There's disappointment. So, like in Zerubbabel, you build the temple, but the temple isn't as nice as the one that Solomon had. Oh, Ezra, you have the law, right? Oh, but people are going around the law, circumventing the law anyway. Oh, you have the rebuilding of the city of Jerusalem. Right now, the Messiah will come. Oh, people are actually using that to sin. It's this disappointment that's found throughout the books, and that's really a big part of the moral of the stories in Nehemiah and Ezra, right? It's not necessarily a happy moral or story, but it's a reflective one of our world, right? That's how these books function. Because when we look at this text, then we go, okay, well, how does this apply to our lives or to keep ourselves from falling into this same thing? It's to be very aware of our own patterns of behavior and to understand that the Messiah has arrived, right? So there is an answer found here, right? It's found in the person of Jesus, who comes and actually fulfills a lot of these things, because he turns the hearts. He turns he leads to a circumcision of the heart, right? This is something that prophets call the people to do, and it's through Christ that you get the true fulfillment of that, right? That's what you see in Jesus. And so when we read Nehemiah, when we read Ezra, we look at this disappointment and we go, okay, this is pointing us to the true king, to the true fulfillment of this Jesus, but it also helps us look at our own lives and say, okay, where are we backsliding? Where are we saying we're not supposed to do these things, but we do them anyway, right? Continuing go back to old sins, making false promises to God about changing our ways, but we go back anyway, right? Do we take it as seriously as Nehemiah does? We should, right? That's the whole point. And so, as you read this text today, wrestle with those things, and come to know that Christ has defeated them. He has fulfilled the deepest longings that we can have, and it's in Him that we ultimately always have to turn. So that's what we talked about today. I hope you guys found that interesting. I'll see you tomorrow for an episode of A New Thing. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and peace out.